Hello everybody and welcome to another Chrissy B show. Now the 10th of October is World Mental Health Day, and global organisations like the World Federation of Mental Health and the World Health Organization are raising awareness of what can be done to ensure that people with mental health problems can live with dignity and respect. And of course, here at the Chrissy B show, we're going to do our part, since this is what the show is really all about, and it's a subject very close to my heart. And I strongly believe that with the right help, people can go on to live happy and fulfilling lives just as I have. Tonight's focus is to show people that they're not alone. We want to remind everyone that mental health problems can affect anyone, but that there is help out there if you need it. So let me just recap some stats for you, which we've mentioned on the show before. Now, according to the Mental Health Foundation, 1 in 4 people will experience some kind of mental health problem in the course of a year, with mixed anxiety and depression the most common mental health disorder in Britain. Women are more likely to have been treated for a mental health problem than men, and about 10% of children have a mental health problem at any one time. Depression affects 1 in 5 older people. Suicide rates show that British men are 3 times as likely to die by suicide than British women, and self-harm statistics for the UK show one of the highest rates in Europe, 400 per 100,000 population. And only 1 in 10 prisoners has no mental disorder. So if you at home have been busy running an event or participating in any activity for World Mental Health Day, let us know about it by tweeting us at Chrissy B Show or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Also, tweet us your photos and videos, as we'd love to see them, and we'll feature them all on our upcoming shows. Well, today we have Kat Pugh and Rachel Egan, who'll both be sharing their personal stories with us and what they're doing to raise awareness. We'll also be joined by our resident psychologist, Dr. Nihara Kraus, to tell us more about the medical causes of mental health problems. Plus, I'll be speaking to the CEO of mental health charity Mind in Yorkshire, David Smith, to find out more about what they do. And later on, I'll be sharing my top tips on how not to feel lonely. Now, mental health is a topic that has hit the headlines frequently these days, so here's Helena Shard with the news. Hi Helena.
Hi Chrissy.
So World Mental Health Day come round again.
It has. It's come around so quickly, and it's I love this subject, as we all do. So the World Federation of Mental Health actually introduced it in 1992, which was just an interesting fact. And I just love the fact that all these organisations.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it has.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. It's just you're just hearing more about it sort of more recently, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, I think so. But just thinking about it, but it's just amazing how all these different organisations have come together and. All want to make everybody aware of everything, and it's really feel good. Not just organisations, it's people, people in general doing things. And the things that people do, I mean, there's so much going on, like policy and public service announcements, lectures, etc. And there's a thing that the Tea and Talk appeal, which is good, that everyone's doing, which I'm going to do as well.
Are you?
Which I'm going to invite you to, which is raising money. So individually raising money, and if everyone does it around the world, it's a fabulous thing. And that's introduced by the Mental Health Foundation, so that's a goodie. And there's lots of great people that are hosting charity bashes to raise money in different ways, and there is one group called the Kaleidoscope Plus group, and they're doing a charity ball in Birmingham Town Hall, which is great. And actually one of my artists is there, he's a comedian called Rudy Liquid, so they're going to raise loads of money, which is really good fun. Also, somebody really great, a lady called Eleanor Longdon, who has suffered from psychosis, and she did a TED talk in 2013 and talked about her condition and the years that she went through it, and it's incredibly empowering, and you can see it on YouTube. But she is also giving a talk at UCL, which is amazing, which is going to be absolutely amazing. And she talks about, she's now an award-winning psychology postgraduate, and she does talks and a huge amount of good. And there's lots of different people like her, but she's really, really inspiring. So that was Eleanor Longdon. A great article in the Sunday Times about wellness in mind, and how everybody now it's at the interview with Sue Harmsworth, and she's an advocate of holistic living, and obviously because of the pace of life, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down, and people are now taking a holistic approach to wellness and physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. So people's in their 20s and 30s. So good foods, exercise, etc. But there's one thing which is like a flip that I've not heard of, which was in The Guardian, which is a condition called orthorexia. I don't know whether you've heard about that.
Never.
And it's a really strange one because it's an unhealthy obsession with otherwise healthy eating. So people, a healthy obsession with...
okay.
So, no, sorry, an unhealthy obsession. So it's taken it to
the extreme,
extremes.
okay.
And there was a young lady called Kayla Prinz who was a self-confessed perfectionist, and her healthy eating, coupled with loads of exercise, really just dictated her life.
Well, I suppose I could understand the exercise, because obviously if you're doing too much it can be harmful, but with the healthy eating, I suppose if you're obsessed with it and you're not
she began to
thinking about anything else.
She began to cut everything out, so it was like a really clean living in her mind. And of course she was getting thinner and thinner, and rather than people being worried for her, they were saying she looked so great. And it actually took a point where she'd met a new boyfriend, and she had a slice of pizza, which was the first time in a long time, and she was so horrified and disgusted with herself. She felt unclean.
Oh, no.
She had a panic attack.
Really?
She didn't feel worthy, and it was just like a whole tumble. But it's not recognised as a clinical diagnosis, so it's not in the DSM-5, but I'm sure will be. Apparently lots of people suffer from it.
Wow.
A fun little thing, the Recovery Bag Project, which is the founder, Polly Rogers, is a lady who she describes herself as a mental health warrior. It's just a fun thing that I think is great to introduce, and she had a bad experience with psychosis and various things, and she needed help just when she was by herself. And it's a recovery bag is a practical kit really to help people manage their mental health. So if they feel that they're going to self-harm or something like that, they can go into their bag and there'd be, I don't know, messages, hand cream, you name it, anything that will take their mind off of. So these bags are like pertinent for everyone, so not just the same. And really very clever what she did. She got some funding, and now she's sort of rolling this project out. It's really quite a nice, simple thing.
It's nice that people are thinking of different ways to help in their own way. It's really nice. Fantastic.
Again, Kate Middleton, we've seen her about, and she's been supporting different child mental health charities. And recently we saw her at the Anna Freud Centre, and she obviously met some of the patients there and talked to all the different things. I mean, she's a very good ambassador, which is great. Boxing legend Frank Bruno as well, who unfortunately had to readmit himself into hospital recently, but which is good, because obviously recognising that things weren't quite right, he can now go in. I mean, he's a fantastic ambassador for mental health, and he's got a fabulous thing on YouTube, and it's, again, Time to Talk, and it's of him and his daughter chatting through his illness. It's a really empowering little thing. It's lovely. And there's a lovely message on Mind's website as well, wishing him well and thanking him for being so great, and talking all the time about it. So our thoughts are with him. Stephen Fry as well, a great ambassador. And I hadn't seen it; it had come out previously, but there's a brilliant download on the BBC website, which is The Secret Life of a Manic Depression. It's an e-pamphlet, so it's everything you need to know about bipolar disorder. It's funny because it used to be called manic depression, but it's still the same thing. But that's really, really great. So we've got a few people. I'm just trying to think of various people. One of the things as well was Amy Winehouse, Autopsy. I don't know whether you saw it.
No.
Which was incredible. It was to do with the last few days of her life, because no one could quite understand, because she was so happy. She'd met someone. She was trying to clean herself up. She was on different things to help her with her alcoholism. But it was proven that she had borderline personality disorder that wasn't recognised, or she didn't want to seek help. And that, unfortunately, was the reason why things happened, because she just, which is really sad. It was great. It was a great watch. A funny one, Oliver Munn, who is she's an actress, an American actress from the Newsroom, which is a film, and she's got a strange one where she plucks out her own eyelashes when she's feeling anxious, which made me go, ooh, in a way.
I actually know of someone that did that. She's pretty depressed. It's actually a sister of someone that I know. And she's trying to get help and everything for her now, but she was taking out her own eyelashes, just
it's a weird one,
anxiety.
Yeah. I sort of understand biting your nails, but I suppose I get it. But trichotillomania or something like that. And there's obviously Catherine Zeta-Jones, we know, with her bipolar disorder, which is something that comes on now and then with her. Amanda Seyfried as well, who's an actress who suffers from panic attacks. I didn't realise that. And who's the one? Oh, I can't remember her name now. Well, she's a pop star. Anyway, you wouldn't have known because she's so outgoing, but she has her little things.
It just goes to show that it can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what you're
Absolutely
doing, who you are, where you're from. It's a worldwide issue.
It is.
And you just need to get help for it.
Absolutely. And one funny thing, which to begin with I was like, really? There's a machine called Ellie, and obviously she's not real, but she looks real, and she can detect depression in people. So she's like a virtual interviewer, and it's something that's just been invented in Southern California. So what she picks up on depression and post-traumatic disorder in people. Now, it's not a substitute for a real therapist, but it's like a support tool. And then from there, people can diagnose, etc. I know, to begin with, I was like, gosh, this is strange.
I'd rather talk to a human being.
But they have different things set up. But that's something that's new. That's
okay. I don't know about that one. I'll think about that one. Helena, thank you so much.
Thank
and we'll see you again next time. All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break, we have Kat Pugh and Rachel Egan, who will both be sharing their stories and what they're doing to raise awareness. So I'll see you in just a second. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, today's show is in support of World Mental Health Day, which is on the 10th of October. And before we speak to our next guest, let's take a look at this interview with Kat Pugh. Welcome back to the show, Kat.
Hi.
So lovely to have you here, because today we are actually going to be talking about World Mental Health Day. So why is it so important to you?
So I think that, by the way, World Mental Health Day is taking place on Saturday the 10th of October. I think it's really important that we talk about mental health, because mental health doesn't just affect people in the UK. It's a common myth that mental health just affects people in the Western world, in the developed world. Mental health actually affects people all across the world. I think it's estimated that 450 million people in the world are affected by some form of mental health problem.
Shocking, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think just by raising awareness and talking about it more helps to alleviate the stigma. And it helps to raise awareness about some of the problems that people might be facing. For example, some countries in the developing world don't have access to treatment. There are some developing countries that they don't have trained psychologists or psychiatrists that they can go to. In certain countries, it's seen as a curse to have a mental illness. So by talking about it more and raising more awareness, I think we can help deal with some of these problems and actually find more research and find treatment for people who are suffering with really, really difficult problems.
This is a subject that's actually very close to your heart, because as we spoke last time, and guys, if you want to check out the show on YouTube, it is titled Eating Disorders. You can go to the YouTube channel now, or not now because you're watching this, but later on, Chrissy B Show, and check out the show there for the full story. So you've struggled with an eating disorder yourself, so you know what it feels like to have, a mental health issue and the difficulties, and how important it is to actually speak up about it. Can you tell us briefly about that?
Yeah, so I'm now 26 and I suffered with an eating disorder since the age of 11. And I think another common myth is that eating disorders, but also mental illnesses, are a person's choice. I certainly would, if it was a choice, I'd certainly have chosen a long time ago to have given up my eating disorder. And they're very, very serious mental illnesses. And with eating disorders, with serious physical complications associated with them. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it is obviously because raising awareness about some of the stigma associated with eating disorders.
Can you tell us about some of the stigma?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of employers perhaps wouldn't necessarily hire somebody with a mental health problem. Perhaps they would perceive somebody to be more of a risk in the workplace. Perhaps they would perceive them to be weaker, and also. There was certain evidence to suggest that, which I was reading about recently, to suggest that on reading that somebody had declared a mental health problem on application, despite them being the more competent applicant, they then would withdraw that application, despite this actually being illegal. So there's a lot of stigma associated with the employability, but also in terms of stigma associated, there's a lot of stigma that we see in the media, in the way that we sort of refer to language around mental illness. And a lot of people get bullied as a result of their mental illnesses. So it's a very challenging subject, and the more that we talk about it through World Mental Health Day and around other times of the year, the more that we can proactively do about it.
What are you actually doing personally for this?
So I do blogging, I do a lot of media advocacy, but also importantly, I do a lot of awareness raising in the workplace. I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive work environment, which includes a wellbeing committee where we're very focused on personal well-being for people who don't suffer with mental illnesses, but also people who do, and looking at strategies to support people regardless of their well-being. And I think that's something that should be supported throughout the country personally, to have things like mindfulness, to have things like making sure that you take your lunch break, making sure that you look at things like resilience building and apps like that help you to take that time out that in a stressful society that we live in, it's very important.
It is, and like you said earlier as well, this is a worldwide thing, and it's like, for me, not being able to get the help when I was going through a mental health issue would have been really, really scary for me. And we do need to talk more about this and campaign more for this, for the message to spread across the world. Because sometimes UK is kind of getting there a bit. I would say it's getting better, but other places they don't have what we have here as well, and like the professionals and people that actually understand it. So let's get working with that.
And I'd certainly say, I know that people will be watching this show or will be on World Mental Health Day, and they might have a child suffering, or they might be suffering, and I'd say definitely go and make that first step. Talk to somebody, talk to someone you trust, or talk to a teacher, because it's very important to get that help and get that help early. So don't be afraid to talk to somebody.
Okay, Kat, thank you so much for speaking to us again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now from one fighter to another, we also have Rachel Egan with us. Hello, Rachel.
Hello.
Hello, my love. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
So good to have you on, because you've also been through quite a hard time, haven't you?
I have,
but you've been fighting through it and now helping others. Can you tell us about your background, first of all?
So I was diagnosed with anorexia when I was 14. I spent some time in hospital. I spent about 6 years kind of in and out of therapy. It was something that kind of followed me to university. And it wasn't until my second year at university that I started to really battle with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation. I was given more therapy, quite a lot more medication as well, to help me get through that period. And it was in my final year that I got really involved in mental health voluntary work and campaigning work, advocacy services, and set up some self-help groups for people with eating disorders at university.
So even though you were going through it yourself, but you still had somehow mustered up that strength to help others.
Kind of, absolutely. And I met a really inspirational kind of group of people who were also kind of going through their own issues as well, and we kind of banded together. And
how important was that for you to have people around you that were going through the same thing and understood you?
It was actually something that I felt like I'd never really had before, because obviously I was ill at school and I didn't really want to tell my friends. Like, I was quite embarrassed by what was going on, even though obviously with anorexia it's quite physically apparent. It wasn't something I felt I could talk about. So actually to be in an environment where people are like, you know what, I feel like that too, was a massive relief for me.
And what is it you're actually doing now? Because I'm really going for it.
I'm very, very busy, Chrissy. So at the moment I am the trustee of CLASP, which is a suicide prevention charity. So we do 2 annual events, which are basically about getting people to look after their bodies and their minds. I also do a lot of work with Mental Health First Aid England, who provide training courses to improve mental health literacy across the UK. So I provide plenary sessions to them, which basically going in and talking to their instructors about my experiences and how they can help somebody else going through those issues.
Okay. And obviously there are people watching today that are going through some kind of mental health issue, and sometimes, you know, going through it myself as well, there were times when I didn't have any strength to do anything. I didn't even feel like sort of going out or even getting up in the morning. Sometimes it was really, really hard, and I know there's people that feel like that now. With me, it was sometimes up and down as well. But what advice would you give to someone going through this, is having a hard time, that's thinking, I can't do this, I can't cope with this? What would you say to them?
I think I would say to them is set yourself realistic goals. So I can totally relate to the idea of I don't want to get out of bed, I don't want to do anything. And I think you kind of have to readjust your idea of success to actually success for you that one day might be, I got in the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
I got out my pajamas, and and that's okay. You're doing the best you can. And also build a really good support network around yourself. So build friends, family you can trust, people you can talk to. Also kind of before stuff builds up and you get to that point. But also, a support team, a recovery team, maybe psychologists or counsellors or whoever you might be involved with.
Now you mentioned family there as well, so just before we go to break, what can you do, what can family members do if they, have someone in their house that's going through some kind of mental health disorder?
I think the most important thing to do is actually just to listen, ask open questions, ask them how you can help. Sometimes they might not always know the answer. Arm yourself with as much information as possible, try and find out a bit about what's going on, how you can help them, those kinds of things, because knowledge is definitely power when it comes to stuff like that. And also get support for themselves. I think it can be quite stressful supporting somebody going through a mental health condition. I'm a mentor for young people, and I know sometimes it's a bit draining for me. So it's important that I support myself when I'm supporting others.
And regarding World Mental Health Day, is there anything in particular that you're doing towards this?
I am. So CLASP, which is the charity I am a trustee for.
Hello everybody.
We're having an event with Pure Gym, actually. So we're doing mind, body and soul, sort of yoga, mindfulness, Pilates classes at 12 different locations across the UK.
Lovely.
So I'm going to be going along, getting my yoga pants on and hoping to relax my mind along with some friends as well.
So obviously exercise is also extremely important for mental health issues.
Absolutely. And gentle exercise, you don't always have to push yourself to the limit. You don't have to be an athlete. It's for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Rachel, thank you so much, and all the best with everything that you're doing.
Thank
it's
you
great
very
that
much.
you're brave enough to come and talk about these things as well, the past and everything's really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so after this quick break, we have Dr. Nihara Kraus joining us, and she'll be commenting on today's guests and the things that we've had on the show so far, and also be telling us how mental health issues develop in the first place and what kind of help is available. Plus, I'll be speaking to the CEO of mental health charity Mind in Yorkshire, David Smith, to find out more about what they do. And later on, I'll also be sharing my top tips on how not to feel lonely. And also, if you have a story that you'd like to share, please do get in touch. You can visit our website, chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, and also you can comment on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. We'll be right back after this break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to today's show, all about World Mental Health Day. And earlier, we met Kat Pugh and Rachel Egan, who both told us about their mental health journeys and what they're doing today. And to give us the medical and scientific background to mental health problems, we have our resident psychologist, Dr. Nihara Kraus. Hello.
Hello, Chrissy.
Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's lovely to have you because you always give great advice. So obviously, a very important day that we are talking about today, even though it's on Saturday, that's going to happen, but obviously we're trying to get people talking. So can you give us a background to mental health issues?
Right, well, to understand mental ill health, I think we need to just remind ourselves of what mental health is. And mental health is all about our well-being. So it's about how well, how happy we feel, how we can interact with life, can we get the best of what we want for ourselves. Mental ill health is when our thinking, our emotions, our behaviours are significantly changed so that they negatively impact on our ability to concentrate, to get on in our social relationships, and generally to get on with life, really.
Okay. It's good to actually clarify that, because even the word like mental, if you don't explain it, because you hear all the time, that person's mental and things, it just has so many different connotations, doesn't it?
It's such a shame, isn't it? Whenever I kind of talk to people or teach children, I always say, mental is the same as mind. So if you talk about mind health or brain health, then actually we're talking about the same thing, and that's certainly kind of understandable. But as soon as you put the word mental in front of it,
I know.
So it's
good
have
that we
these
talk
horrible
about
images. Yes, indeed.
So how do mental illnesses come about?
There's often a range of kind of reasons, so there's no one reason. Very often it's because the biochemistry of your brain is disrupted in some way. So these are often illnesses in that sense, but that chemistry can be disrupted either because of genetically how you're predisposed. Often it might be because you've experienced a number of difficult life experiences, traumas, losses. Sometimes it might be because of the type of personality you have. If you're a perfectionist, for example, or if you don't have a very high stress tolerance and you're in a very, very stressful situation, then those sorts of things can potentially trigger off a vulnerability in us, which can then help us to, or not help us, to get the best workings of our brain and our mind.
These kind of issues maybe obviously have always been around, but would you say it's kind of, in this day and age, it's more difficult for people because of like maybe the technology and the stress of life and just everyone rushing around all the time and not really taking time for themselves?
I think there's certainly a greater number of stresses around, and some of those stresses are new stresses. You mentioned technology, but certainly I think there's a huge amount of stress around, getting to the top, for example. So there's a lot of stress on, a lot of competition. Technology spreads information, and at one level that's very good, but it also spreads lots of negative information. And there was a very interesting study that was done recently that looked at people who kind of used a lot of social networking media, and their access to distressing information was very quick and very great. And if you then talk about vulnerable populations like children, for example, then you really do have to think about the effect of that information.
Now, children, obviously, now they're according to the stats that we read earlier, they're also at risk.
Yes. So 1 in 10 teenagers are vulnerable, and then very, very frighteningly, the statistic increases so that when you're at university, you match the 1 in 4 of the adult population.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing actually something in schools as well. We have spoken about it before, but for the new viewers that we have, can you tell us about what you do?
Well, I founded a charity called STEM 4 years ago, and the aim of the charity is to go into schools to get young people and their teachers and their parents to really talk about mental health. And we do some very interesting workshops on well-being. You know, so what can you do to look after your health, and really to look at a kind of mixture of stuff. So I mentioned my program called Mind Your 5, which is 5 a day to help with your mental health. You know, what can you do? We talk about the importance of friendships, for example, you know, social isolation, loneliness, broken relationships, bullying. These are all very, very significant factors that can affect our mental well-being. So we talk about those, but also really look at the picking up of early warning signs of very common teenage mental health problems. And there are things like eating disorders, addictions, but specifically to teenagers, things like internet addiction, gaming addiction, anxiety, depression, and self-harm. Because obviously, again, your statistic was, you know, 1 in 12 young people self-harm in the UK. That's a very high statistic.
It is really, really, really high.
Yes.
So Nihara, it sounds really great what you're doing in schools. It's fantastic. And also, just a final question about health and fitness. How important is that for our mental well-being?
Health and fitness is, you know, mind and body can't be separated. So if we have a healthy body, it helps us in terms of sort of looking after our mind. So in terms of fitness, there's some research, and I think I've mentioned it in one of the other programs when we talked about depression, is that there is some research that shows that exercise is as beneficial as taking antidepressants for mild depression. And it's not much, it's half an hour a day is what's recommended. So, you know, if you can do something, you know, do it, it's great. And if you can do something with a team or with a friend, then it's even better, because making connections is also really good for our mental health, rather than, you know, doing stuff on our own. And then one of the things that often we don't kind of know about is the importance of food in terms of how it helps our brain. So that comes from 2 bits of research. One, which is still in development, that comes from all the Alzheimer's research that's been done. The other is actually looking at neurotransmitters in our brain. And one thing that people often forget is that all our brain chemicals, or most of them, are broken down from food.
Right.
You know, our body doesn't just naturally produce them. So carbohydrates are the precursors to serotonin in our brain, which is our happy hormone. Various proteins are the breakdowns to things like dopamine, which is, you know, kind of seen in schizophrenia and other things like that. So eating well and eating healthily will help. They're not necessarily going to treat, but they're helpful in kind of maintaining. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And the same, there's the superfoods that they talk about from the Alzheimer's research, like things like blueberries, which are very high in vitamin C and antioxidants, and other types of food, omega fish oils, things like that, which again are supposed to be very good.
Okay.
So,
Dr. Nihara, thank you so much, and we'll see you again very soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So up next, here's David Smith, the CEO of Mind in Yorkshire, talking about mental health and what his charity does.
Thanks, Chrissy. It's great to be with you tonight. So Mind really has 2 general purposes. The first is around campaigning and making sure that we do whatever we can to educate the public about mental health and people living with mental health problems, to campaign where we can as well for better mental health services, and at times to hold people to account, so to hold the NHS to account, hold local authorities to account if we think they're not doing what they should be doing. We also directly deliver services, so they're the things that we do that directly support the people that are living with mental health difficulties. We also do quite a bit of preventative work around trying to stop people becoming poorly and trying to stop people developing problems in the first place. The charity was set up almost 40 years ago. It's actually our 40th anniversary next year. And it was originally formed by 4 individuals. And what's really interesting is looking at their backgrounds. There was somebody who worked in the police, somebody who worked in the court service, somebody who worked in housing services, and somebody who worked in social services. And at the time, almost 40 years ago, those 4 people felt that there was a need for something to help support those people in the area with mental health difficulties. What's probably shocking to see now is that 40 years on, in those 4 areas, you will still see huge levels of need amongst people with mental health problems. We've come a long way in the last 40 years, but there's still a lot more work to do. Our services break down into 5 general areas. The area that we're best known for is the accommodation that we provide. Some of that is in shared housing, and some of that is in larger units that function really as communities where people can live together and help support each other. For us, accommodation is really important because if we don't have safe and secure homes that we can live in and feel safe in, how on earth are we going to begin our recovery or stay well? We also deliver a whole range of different group work, different one-to-one activities, and we've got a training arm as well. So some of that is around taking out information about mental health, so we deliver things like mental health first aid. We also do quite a lot of work with employers to make sure that they're doing whatever they can to support people to stay well in the workplace. I think it's really hard to say in a single sentence why the services that we provide are so important. I think they interact with people at very different parts in their life. So for some people, it's helping them to stay well. For others, it's helping them get better. For some people who are being very poorly, it's their route out of hospital. But I think one of the main functions of Mind really is to bring people together into a community wherever we can, so that we can learn, we can support, we can help each other. It's not just a case of us going out there, delivering service and doing things to people. We do things with people.
So thank you very much, David. Now up next, more helpful tips on how not to feel lonely. Don't go away. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back, everyone. So we've been talking all things mental health today in support of World Mental Health Day, which is on the 10th of October. And this is obviously very important for us to cover here and do our bit to raise awareness, because it's what we're all about on this programme. Now, before I get to my tips on how not to feel lonely, earlier Dr. Nihara said how important it is to take good care of our health. And one of the ways you can do this is by the food we choose to eat. Now, for those of you who have a sweet tooth, dessert time can be quite dangerous, but even desserts can and should be healthy too. And to give us some delicious healthy dessert recipes, here's our resident nutritionist, Hannah Richards.
Hi, my name's Hannah and this is the Move 360 kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favourite desserts, which is called monkey nut pie. So here I've just frozen 2 bananas, well, kind of frozen them, but they just need to they need to be cold. So 2 bananas chopped, put them into the blender like that. And then take a nut butter. There are lots of really good healthy nut butters these days, so make sure you choose a really good quality brand, and 2 tablespoons into the blender as well. And then this is just coconut milk. So we're going to pour some of this in, and it's a little bit thicker than coconut milk, and so it gives it a nice consistency. Okie dokie. And pour it out. The more banana you put in, then the thicker that will be. But that's a sweet treat for children when you don't want to feed them really sugary laden ice creams. Monkey nut pie.
Thank you very much, Hannah. So now to my points about loneliness and how to avoid feeling lonely. So there's a type of loneliness where you are literally on your own. Maybe you're away from family, you're maybe in another country, not your homeland, and maybe you don't have any friends at the moment. So to deal with this type of loneliness, obviously the first point is to make friends. So even if you are away from your family, try to find another type of family wherever you are. So try, for example, being friendly and to make some friends that you can confide in and you can have a good time with as well. So, but if you kind of find that you don't make friends easily, you kind of need to find out why that is. It could be that maybe you have trouble relating to people, maybe, I don't know, it could be a bit rude. And in any case, I would say work on those things so that you do become a friendlier person. And a few things that you can do to actually break the ice with people. You can maybe go and sit with people at work or at school. So instead of being a loner and going away by yourself at lunchtime, try just sitting in a group, you see someone there, just strike up a conversation. You could try joining clubs where there are people who share the same, the same kind of interests. It could be sports clubs, something like that, where you meet people that like the same things that you do. You can also do some kind of volunteering. So we've covered this on the show before. I remember going to South Downs in Brighton, and there is a volunteer group there that help with the landscape and everything, and they were saying how it was nice to socialise. You meet new people, you make friends. So volunteering can be a really nice opening for you to meet people. And also try talking more. So you can go to clubs, but if you don't talk, there's not much point. So you don't know until you actually start talking to someone. You never know what you have in common. So even if it kind of feels a bit out of your comfort zone, just try and strike up conversations, ask questions, smile, because if you don't smile and you look really moody and stuff like that, no one's going to want to talk to you, basically. So try smiling, ask the person about themselves. People love talking about themselves, so use that as a way to get in there. And also, more importantly, be a good friend. So if you want to make friends, you have to be a good friend to people. So share things about yourself, talk, but also more importantly, listen to what people are saying to you. Take in, don't just ask them questions for the sake of it, but show a genuine interest in what people are saying. And I think a very important one is be trustworthy as well. So people need to, before they get close to someone, they need to know that they can trust you. So make sure you don't go and say what they've told you to other people. Show that you are a good friend. Now, there is another type of loneliness where you can be surrounded by people but still feel very lonely, just like I did. I remember when I was at college and uni, I had lots of friends. I was involved in lots of things, going to the gym, going out clubbing and stuff like that, school, with the uni friends and everything. So I had lots of things to do. I was surrounded by people, but I still felt so lonely because I felt that no one understood what I was going through, and I didn't feel that I could talk about it because it's like no one else was saying anything about depression or panic attacks. So I thought, no one else is going through this, so I'm just going to keep quiet, and I don't want to lose the friends that I have. So because of that, because I felt like an outsider, it was a very, very lonely place for me. And the only way that I was able to get past that was when I actually started talking about the issues, and that actually led to my recovery. That's when my recovery started. So even though I didn't really speak to people at university, but when I did leave uni and I started working and everything like that, then I decided that I couldn't take it anymore and I needed to talk about things. I needed to open up and express myself about what was going on. So, it is very, very important, which was the second point actually, which is don't hide. So I hid at university, I hid at college, I hid from my parents, I hid from family. I didn't tell anyone what I was going through, and that didn't help at all. It just made me feel worse. So the day I decided to start talking about it, that's when I started to find help for the problems that I was going through. So I hope that's helped you. And don't forget, if you don't have to go through anything by yourself. And I do want to encourage you all to take part and support World Mental Health Day and help us raise awareness of mental health issues in general. But if you have a story to tell us or an experience to share to get us talking about mental health issues, please do visit the website and contact us from there, chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at chrissybshow and also comment on our Facebook page. And I really hope you've enjoyed the show and learned something today. And if you want to know more about me and how I overcame depression, you can visit my website, mylifeafterdepression.com. Now, before I go, I'd like to show you a fun activity. We were speaking about friends making friends earlier, and something that's really nice that can also get you out and about with friends when you do make them, and also to get your mind active and on something else. This is a really good activity that I found really enjoyable, which I did with a friend of mine. So let's take a look at this, and bye-bye for now. Right, so I'm now ready for my next challenge, and I've brought along Motti, which you've seen before, to help me with this one. Now we are in Clue Quest in Liverpool Street. So this challenge is all about being locked in a flat, in a room, and we have to find our way out using loads of clues.
Now somebody on the team will need to be the scribe or the note taker, code master we like to call them. Who would like to be that person?
I'll take with it.
Now one of you will also need to be in charge of communication. I assume that will be you. There you go. So if you'd like to just test it out with me, press the big button on the side and speak into the microphone.
Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Very good. I can hear you loud and clear, Agent, over. So if at any point throughout your mission you do wish to contact me, you can do so using the walkie-talkie.
Wow!
Okay, so we have to figure out how to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm just very excited and nervous as well.
Alrighty,
Hope
so
we manage.
let's start searching for clues.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Guys, we completed our mission. It was so much fun. We made it, Motti.
Oh, I loved it. That was so much fun. I want to do it again.
Well, like we said, we can't give anything away to you guys, but all I can say, it's very exciting. It gets you thinking. You have to work as a team, don't you?
Yeah, I felt like I was in a mystery novel that I love reading so much, and it was really nice.
So now I'm here with Gabor Pap, who is the founder of this fantastic place, Clue Quest. So Gabor, how did you come up with this idea?
Actually, it wasn't just me. It's me, and I've got 3 brothers. It's 4 of us who own and run this business, and we like to play similar games. Our business is about locking people in and escaping, hopefully. If you don't escape, we may keep you forever. Not really, but that's a joke. It's a very good team building exercise. As long as you're in there, immersing in this activity, you have to communicate. It's not a one-man show where you can go in there and solve everything. We'd like to come up with new experiences every 6 months, so people can come back and escape us.
Escape. Gabs, thank you so much. We've had a brilliant, brilliant time. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and hope you escape us again.
Okay.